When you're a tyrant, you're always right. And either people understand that you're right, they're too stupid to understand you're right, or they're in the process of understanding that you're right. And ultimately, they'll get there. So another liability of being a tyrant is that we close ourselves off to experience and a learning that comes from that experience. We're showing up with a bunch of answers. And a lot of time we'll use confirmation bias to just take these problems that we have and turn them into questions that we already have the answers for. We're not truly present when we're a tyrant because we're showing up with the outcome already in mind. There's no sort of open-mindedness that allows for the possibility that there's information to be gained, that there are lessons to be learned, that there is an evolution or an upgrade waiting to be had. We're already right? In jiu-jitsu, to use an analogy, there is a phenomenon where you'll have an individual in the beginning that just moves the right way, that just gets it. And they don't really have to struggle. And they don't have a misunderstanding in their relationship with jiu-jitsu that requires a little bit more focus than they'd want. Like everything's just easy. These people, if they don't build a relationship with the pressure that comes with a little bit of uncertainty, they will eventually create walls, a ceiling around the experience that they have to never grow beyond that. I could say now, as somebody who opened a school, a jiu-jitsu school, 20-something years ago, as a blue belt, which, for those of you who don't know, is just the second belt in jiu-jitsu, of 5, by the way. So it's not like there's 2 belts and it's the second one. That's a good thing, right? No, there's 5 belts, 10 years on average to get, the last one, the black belt. I was a blue belt and I opened a school. At the time, it was more out of necessity. I had to do that because it was a bad situation I was in that I had left to start my own school. However, I will absolutely acknowledge that there was a weight that I had to carry that impeded my individual development as a jiu-jitsu practitioner. Because early on, I had the added responsibility and obligation of leading other people through their journey. And if I am designated the leader, there are times where I have to get them to where they want to go, sometimes to the detriment and at the cost of where I as an individual needed to go. And that was something that I've had to wrestle with this entire time. I've had many students over the years, say that they want to open up schools. And one of the first things I tell them is like, don't. Well, the context of it is, it's like there's no more training like you're used to training when you open a school. And they don't realize that. They realize, that it's like the entrepreneur who's tired of making other people rich and he opens up a business. Oftentimes these schools, it's not like they're, I'm tired of making MC rich, so I'm going to go get my own. But oftentimes it's just like, hey, I want to have my own spot so I could train all day, every day, and I could do this instead of that. And maybe the Jungle Gym MC school does things a little differently than I want to. And they have this idea. Then they open up a school. And next thing you know, they're not training as much. They're not competing as much. It's like now they have to learn how to run a business. Now they have to learn how to become a therapist, a school teacher, a babysitter, all these different things that school owners in the beginning have to be to the people that are in their school. I would say that, it's important that we understand keeping an open mind allows us to maximize the rate at which we build a relationship with all of these things. Tyrants, ultimately, though, will reduce the environment to match their understanding of it. I have a power program that I had made called Mind Killers. And one of the mind killers, which is sort of like a take on biases, individual biases, and archetypes based on these biases, I called it the vacuum cleaner. And the vacuum cleaner is somebody who their entire world winds up being this box. And they're constantly vacuuming and cleaning that box because to them, their world is perfect. And the obviously the catch of it is their world is this little box. So sure, they can act like everything's perfect because they've never grown beyond the borders of the reality that they've designed. So they don't know what uncertainty is like. They don't know what having to listen to somebody else and get advice and leadership from somebody else is like. They don't know. They don't understand that dynamic because they've mastered their box and they keep it clean by vacuuming it every day. And that closed mind is rationalized but look how clean everything is, and it's a sort of a trap, this circular logic that puts people in that situation, that oftentimes it takes some almost traumatic level event to sort of break the wall of, to get them to open their mind, meaning oftentimes that transition out of that mindset comes by way of necessity. It's like, yeah, your understanding of this limited world that you've created for yourself does not address the situation you're in right now. So you better learn some shit. And that's a lot of times how the tyrant starts to move past. It's how it happened with me. I remember I was a somewhat successful competitor, and my guys, my team was doing well in competitions and stuff. And like so many, I'm almost embarrassed even saying this out loud, but like so many new school owners, I was at that point eventually where I was like, of course people should train with me. My school's the best. I'm better than all the other competitors' schools. Like, why would anybody go there? You should be in my school. And who they were as individuals and how their identity vibed with mine and the environment of the school that I created, that was never a concern of mine. I never really addressed that. I didn't give a shit. Didn't matter. Clearly, you should be training with me. And that was the tyrant's lens, right? It was very limited because of it. And I burned a lot of relationships early on because of that. Always thinking I was right. Never realizing, like I had mentioned earlier, the distance between where they wanted to be and where they were, and how long of a path that they actually needed to traverse in order to make that change. To me, it was like, no, just be this person and you'll get better at being this person. There was no building. There was no giving them time to understand and build a relationship with things as it evolved. It's like, think about it. You have a genius, or let's just say a super high IQ. Maybe that's a genius. Maybe that's the same thing. But a very, very smart kindergarten student. He's not ready for calculus necessarily. He's not ready for, university level physics, or, there's a certain point where it's like, yeah, he's really smart. Can he do calculus? Well, he's only in kindergarten, but you said he's really smart. Yeah, but he's only in kindergarten. One doesn't need to be a social scientist or a psychologist to understand what I'm talking about. It's like, well, yeah, he's smart, but he's smart for a kindergartner. He's like, the pace at which everybody else is compared to him at this point is just different. He's accelerated. He's advanced compared to his peers. But it's not like he's already there. We still have to give him some time to get there. Maybe he'll get there, in 3 years where everybody else needs 10, but he still has that path to walk. The tyrant doesn't allow for that, right? So it's just unnatural, the expectations that tyrants placed on the people that they're engaging with through alliance, right?